Before we made the move to Phoenix, my wife and I lived in both Portland, Oregon and Bend, Oregon. If you're thinking about making a move from Oregon to Arizona, I'll share some drastic differences between the two states and give you some pros and cons of living in Arizona versus living in Oregon. First thing we'll cover is the weather, and there's obviously some major differences between the weather in Oregon versus the weather in Arizona. And more specifically, we'll take a look at Portland and Bend weather and how those compare to the Phoenix weather. So we'll start with the Portland weather. Obviously, it's known for its rain. It's going to be gray and cloudy. My experience living there was what I would consider a true summer, only lasted about 2 months. So I would say July and August in Portland is similar to probably January and February in Phoenix. So if you're looking to trade in the rain for some sunshine and you're able to handle the heat, I would say it's going to be a great move from Portland to Phoenix. Now, I've also lived in Bend, Oregon, totally different climate. You've got the high desert, you've got full 4 seasons there, you get snow, you get warm temperatures into the 90s in the summer, lots of color changes from season to season. You're not going to get that in Phoenix. Next, we'll cover cost of living and home prices. Now, on average, Phoenix is going to be more affordable than living in both Bend and Portland. I would say when comparing Portland to Phoenix, they are similar in the fact that there are some higher end areas within the city that are going to be more expensive. There's also some other areas that are going to be a bit more affordable. Now, Bend is a different story. I happened to live there when there was a huge jump in home prices. It's kind of turned into more of a second home vacation community there, and home prices have skyrocketed in the last 5 years. We can take a look at home prices here and compare Bend, Portland, and Phoenix. We're looking at Bend here, and as I mentioned, over the last 5 years, there's been a significant increase in home prices. Currently, the median sale price is just under 700,000. As you can see with the chart down here, back in 2020, it was under 500,000. So there has been a big jump up in the Bend market. Now, if you look at Portland, current median sale price is 510,000. There has been an increase since 2020, but I would say over the last few years, their market has been a bit choppy. And then if we look at Phoenix, median sale price is currently at 470,000. I will say there's also been a big jump up here in home prices over the last 5 years, where you could have got something in 2020 for under 300,000. It's jumped up a bit, but nothing compared to Bend or Portland. One added bonus: living in Arizona, you'll save quite a bit on state income tax. When my wife and I moved from Oregon to Arizona, we saved about 7% on state income tax. So if you have a W-2 job where you get it taken out each paycheck, you'll see a 7% bump in your paycheck just moving to Arizona. Now, people will point out that there is no sales tax in Oregon, which is correct. I wanted to track my spending to see how much that offset the state income tax. So I kept track of my spending and sales tax in Arizona over a 6-month period, and it did put about a 50% dent into that 7%. So overall, you're still saving about 3.5%. Next, let's cover culture and lifestyle and take a look at Portland and Bend and how they compare to Phoenix. So Portland, you have, kind of a foodie town, tons of places to see bands, breweries, really easy to get around on public transportation, and a bit smaller of a city and not as spread out as Phoenix is. And then Bend, on the other hand, very outdoor focused, extremely busy in the summer. Got skiing and snowboarding out Mount Bachelor in the winter. Some good restaurants in Bend as well, breweries, but very outdoor focused. I always joked it was the Sprinter van was the city vehicle. You'd always see bikes, kayaks, paddle boards, kind of on everyone's car. And then with Phoenix, it's much more spread out. So you're really not going to rely on public transportation. Plenty of places to see music, stand-up comedy, golfing, mountain biking, hiking, tons of stuff to do, but it's much more spread out and you're going to have a bit of a drive to get to some things. Next up, we'll cover transportation and traffic. In Portland, I touched on it earlier. Great city for public transportation, using the Max. A lot of people bike to work. It's very walkable. So, plenty of things you can do without jumping in the car and getting on a freeway. But if you do have to commute on freeways in Portland, obviously there's quite a bit of traffic. Bend, on the other hand, a much smaller city, you really just have the one parkway that runs through the middle of town. Kind of funny, when I lived there, a lot of people complained about the traffic. But if you've lived in any other big city, Bend traffic is, nothing compared to those. Tons of roundabouts there. That's their favorite thing in Bend, but fairly easy to get around. It's just a smaller town. Now, Phoenix, on the other hand, very spread out, lots of freeways. And to be quite honest, the driving is pretty crazy here. I see lots of accidents. People go extremely fast. I mean, 80 to 85 is kind of what a lot of people are doing. So, coming from Oregon to Arizona on the freeways will be a big adjustment. Next up, we'll cover outdoor activities and scenery. So, Portland, you have very lush and green. You get that consistent rain. So, people are doing outdoor activities even when it's a light drizzle out. Hiking and mountain biking is pretty common. You're not just going to wait for the summer to do those type of things. And then you have Mount Hood. If you want to do some skiing and snowboarding, it's not too far away. Now, Bend, on the other hand, very outdoor focused. Skiing and snowboarding at Mount Bachelor. In the summer, you have people floating the river, paddle boards, hiking, mountain biking. So, very outdoor focused. Phoenix, on the other hand, I mean, it's sunny all the time. Really, when you're not heading outdoors is in the summer when it's 115 degrees, but all winter, spring, fall, you're going to be heading out mountain biking, hiking. Got Lake Pleasant north of Phoenix. If you want to go out, take a boat out, or just hang out at the lake. And then about 2.5 hours, you have Flagstaff. That would be the closest for skiing and snowboarding. Next up, we'll cover food and drink, and this is where Portland probably has a leg up. For a city of its size, it has tons of great restaurants, food carts, amazing coffee shops, lots of options for bars and breweries. So, in terms of a food scene, I would say Portland's pretty tough to beat. Bend, on the other hand, just a much smaller scale. So there's still some cool breweries and restaurants, just not as many to choose from because it's a smaller area. Phoenix, on the other hand, tons of great restaurants, but really spread out. So you may travel, 30 minutes to find a good restaurant. Lots of Southwest inspired cuisine, but really great all across the board. Decent pizza, barbecue, Mexican, Italian, but you'll see quite a bit of Southwest cuisine in the Phoenix area. Next up, let's take a look at sports and entertainment. So, Portland, professional sports teams, you have the Trailblazers and the Timbers. Then you also have tons of venues of all sizes for concerts. So, I mean, anything from just a couple hundred people all the way to, seeing concerts at where the Trailblazers play. I'm also a big stand up comedy fan. So, Portland has the Helium Comedy Club there. Bend, they've got the amphitheater, so you'll see big concerts come through in the summer, and then there are a couple smaller venues, but it's a smaller city, so no professional sports teams out of Bend. Phoenix, of course, you've got the Suns, you've got the Diamondbacks, and then you've got the Cardinals. So lots in terms of professional sports. You've also got a lot of different comedy options. I'm a big stand-up comedy fan, as I mentioned. Got stand-up live. You got Tempe Improv, Desert Ridge Improv, places like the Celebrity Theater. So lots of options also for concerts, similar to Portland. Anything from smaller venues all the way up to where the Suns play. All right, so let's wrap this up, and I'm going to highlight some of the key differences I've noticed since moving from Oregon to Arizona. So one and the most obvious is probably weather. Rainy in Portland, decent weather in Bend. You do get some snow. So if you're not wanting snow or rainy conditions, Phoenix makes sense and you're going to have tons of sunshine. The adjustment is just the extreme heat in the summer. And I think overall, just affordability. Phoenix is a more affordable place. And as I mentioned, you save on income tax. And then just overall lifestyle. You got to think about what type of lifestyle you want to live. If you're willing to do a little bit more driving in a spread out area like Phoenix is, there's just so many outdoor activities because it's so sunny. So lots of different mountains for hiking, mountain biking. So in terms of just sunshine and options, and for me, an outdoor type of person, Phoenix outweighs living in really both Bend and Portland. And that's why we made the move.